I think it's kind of simple as to why your defense is or isn't good. So if we were playing us three and two other guys 5-on-5 in a pickup game, the reason our defense would be good or bad are just three things. It's are we competent? Meaning, can we actually guard our man? Are we capable? 2, our effort, and 3, our scheme. So if you're getting blown by and I grab you and I go, Goo, what are you doing? And you go, man, I'm hungover, dude. I could normally guard this. You can't do it. Or you tell me, Bob, I can't guard this guy. Like, I literally cannot guard him. I'm trying. And then we sit down and go, you might say, I can guard him, but don't push him this way. Or if I'm pushing him this way, you got to be here. Or let's not switch the screen. Don't put me on the block with this dude. So when there's a 5-1 pick and roll, I cannot switch. So that's it. So you can decide with this team which you think the problem is. But that's it. That's defense. You either can't, you either can or can't. You either try, you don't try, or the scheme's not right. It's simple. That's every sport. I mean, that's every single sport ever. And so the question is for coaches or me or anybody that's able to shift any of this, or a player. So the player can say, I need to get better at this so I can do it better. That's within their control. They control the effort. Coach controls maybe making them accountable. Coaches control the scheme. Maybe the front office controls getting players that can do it. So it's hard to say. I heard what Steinmetz was saying earlier. When you talk about defense or anything, it is best to talk about the team because focusing on one guy is fine, and it makes for maybe good talk radio or good arguments. But you win and you lose with everybody, right? When we win, everybody's got a hand in the winning. I think coaches, players, front office. When you lose, it's everybody's fault too. So that doesn't make for an exciting response, but that's what it is.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. He joins us every other week here, and it's the executive show. Let me ask you about your conversations among your colleagues in the front office. Because Guru and I, just to give you a little insight, we've been going back, and it feels like for weeks now. Yeah, you guys have played pretty well. Steiny, they can do it. They got pedigree. They've done it before. Never count them out. You know, then after some other games, I'm like, Goo, it's 58 games. They haven't done it. I can't go on what happened last year. I got to look at all that stuff. Can I assume that those are the themes of your guys' talks in there? Like, is it fantasy to think we're 29 and 29 and we're going to run the table? Is that fantasy, or can we really do it?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, it doesn't matter what I think. I mean, the team's the team now, so you hope you get healthy and find out. I just love professional sports in the playoffs because it all gets answered. This isn't some subjective Grammy Awards or Oscars where you think you got screwed. If you lose, you weren't good enough, and if you win, you were. The hardest thing for us to evaluate, if you're asking me, is health, right? If you're healthy in the playoffs, pretty healthy, and we weren't even really healthy last year because Curry was coming in, but we were able to weather that. But, we lost Peyton for a little bit in the later rounds, able to overcome that. And the truth about our team in many of the years past is Curry and even when we had Durant, they missed entire playoff series, and we won. So that's a huge margin for error. But to answer your question, that's the thing you find out, because in the playoffs there's no resting. You're getting maximum effort. You're getting maximum effort from the coaching staff. You're attacking matchups. You're finding all the weaknesses. Not indifferent than any sport. I mean, in baseball playoffs, all of a sudden, it's 2-1, and the pitcher's going 8 innings instead of 6, and you're pinch hitting and trying to find every tiny angle. You see in the playoffs, 39 minutes instead of 33. It's a huge difference to have a star on the floor for that amount of time. But I shouldn't be talking about the playoffs as if that's preordained. We got to get to the playoffs before any of those questions are answered, and hopefully have a good seed. And that's the focus for the next, I think, 20, 24 games.
Bob, let me ask you this. You traded Wiseman. The whole Bay Area was rooting for him, and you got back a player that, everybody was excited that could make immediate impact. And when you find out that player can't help right now, Can you walk us through how big of a setback that is? And have you been a part of anything like that before?
No, probably not. As far as your last question, yeah, I mean, we could use Gary. You heard Steve say last night, our defense. Somebody asked him, "What's the biggest issue with it?" It's our point of attack. For those people listening, that means, can you keep your man in front of you? And we've struggled with that. And you can look at our pick and roll coverage numbers. You can look at our blow by numbers, ISO defense. It's there for people to want to dig into it. And Peyton is elite at that. Not that one guy solves all the problems, but I don't know. Is it crazy to say? And I'm interested to hear what you guys say. We've had 20 close games. If you had Peyton for 20 of them, does he help you win 2 or 3 of those more than you lost? I actually think he could have, maybe more. He's that good, and in an area we need. So, yeah, it was tough news to hear that he's not going to be ready. And the hope is, him and Curry are back and healthy for the playoffs, and then hopefully they get a little bit of runway before that, so it's not the first thing they do. But Gary knows us. He knows what we do. We know him. And it's not as if you traded for a guy that hasn't played at all in your system. Our system is not that easy to just walk into. So for us, the trade deadline, I think, is always exciting and fun. Most of the time, if you look back at the history of the league, there isn't a trade that produced a championship. I think Clyde Drexler went to the Rockets years ago. But if you look at like a major trade that said that's the reason why they won or a huge part of it, it's pretty uncommon. But maybe that happens this year. I don't know. We'll see.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. Earlier this year, you asked me about 2 timelines and whether or not you guys had ever used that phrase. And I don't know. I don't think you did. So it never came from you guys. You had a veteran core and you added to it through the draft. Can I ask you this, though? Because it just seems like young and old has been a theme for the last couple years. Did you guys underestimate perhaps the chasm between championship veterans and players who had no experience in the league and how that might come together?
Oh, man. We'll see. I don't know. I think that when we drafted Wiseman, we were with the worst record in the league. And I had no sense of, I don't think anybody did, what our team would be after that.
Well, don't forget, Clay got hurt on draft day of Wiseman.
Yeah, right. So, I forgot about that. That's another thing, realizing that he's out for the year and realizing that probably wasn't going to be a championship team we had going forward the following year. And so, look, take the best player. That's who we thought was the best player. I don't think anybody was raising their hand and saying we can't do this because we're so deep and good that we're going to be winning championships and we got to get a guy that can help right now. I think it was more about we just had the worst record in the league and let's get the best player. And then that following season we lost in the play-in. And so is that a team that's necessarily close to a championship that loses in the play-in the year before? I mean, most of the time, not. And these are just thoughts. They're not. It's not that you can decide what you or what anybody should have done. But anyways, we took the best players, and not with an idea that these are guys who are going to carry us to the promised land. Because no matter who we drafted, at that time, after we had just traded for Wiggins, you look at the roster and you go, okay, Steph, Clay coming back, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, and Poole was kind of coming around. So that's 6 guys that are pretty good, and you say, okay, what rookie, young or old, is going to come in and get 30 minutes or get 25 minutes with that team? And so maybe if there was a guy that, and maybe there was, but it's hard to predict who that would have been. And then you take that guy. But it wasn't, all these things, I think decisions are made, and we make them, you make them with the information you have at the time. You make them. And then you look back and you can evaluate whether they were smart or not. But it's tough because if you look at the draft, 20 out of the 30 guys are freshmen, maybe more now, if you look at the history of the first round over the last 3 years. So they're all pretty much that age. It's so the better argument, Matt, is trade the pick. Just trade it for a vet. But again, you don't know. You don't know where you are on the cusp of things, and those are the reasons why.
Bob, we always keep it real when we talk to you, and you always expand on your answers. But this is how I'm thinking about your season. You tell me what you think. Before game one, you're dealing with the Poole Draymond situation. Curry gets hurt. It's fluke. Wiggins comes down with some illness, and I still don't think he's back. He had a good game a couple nights ago. And now you're dealing with, the James Wiseman trade / Peyton injury. Is there any feeling, Bob, that you get like, you know what, this year's just kind of funky. Maybe it ain't our year.
No, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's been some bumps for sure. I feel like there was some last year, although we had I think Steiny said there was a good stretch to lean on that we knew and saw, and we're waiting for that this year. But every year is different, and you got to overcome whatever you have to overcome. But I hope that we're set up here, and you're right. I've heard you say, obviously Curry has to come back.
Oh, no.
That has to happen, and if that doesn't happen, it doesn't matter, but I think it will. So then you have to see, but you're right, Wiggins took a little while to get back, but he probably had his best game the other night against the Wizards. So we have to have good play out of Clay and Draymond and Poole and Wiggins and Curry and Lee. We have to play well to make that happen. And that's the question. We know they can. I've seen them do it, but I don't know how much can you say that?
I'd say we know they have done it. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we know they can anymore.
Right. And I think the question is, the special thing about this group, many of them, you don't just win 4 championships. There's a lot of talented players in sports. When you're able to do it that many times with the same kind of core, there's a belief, there's a confidence. And I think the thing, Matt, is it's a little bit like maybe a boxer where they just haven't been knocked out. And people listening can say, I don't care. But they really haven't. And so we'll see how long they can keep going before that happens. And I think the league even kind of knows that too. And I never thought people were scared of our team or not. But when you're playing these guys in a series, you look across and you look at guys that have done it 4 times. There's a weight to that. And even, I remember when we used to play the Spurs, you just felt like if it was close, you're going to lose because they just had this determination and will. So you had to beat them. You really just had to beat them. And eventually that team, I think the year that they won it, they lost to the Heat in that dramatic Ray Allen shot. And then they came back and won it and gave everything they had. And I think the next year they lost in the first round, and I don't know what happened after that. I don't know that they got it back. But that's the question. They lost in the first round after winning it, and I think 2014 they won it, and I think the year we won it, they lost to the Clippers in the first round. So we'll see. That's why we watch, right? That's why you guys can debate this for the next 2 months. Obviously, I'm betting on our group because I know them and I've seen them, but we'll see what happens.
Go ahead. Now, Bob, I was going to ask you, so am I, but about Curry, you mentioned him. I came in this morning, I said, Steiny, if I'm Bob, I wonder if there's a Curry app. I mean, you got to be having dinner with your family thinking everything hinges on when he comes back. Share with us and walk us through, do you make a call to him, the training staff? How do you monitor Steph, day in, day out? Because, him coming back, Bob, and you said it is everything.
The thing about him is he's here. I'm here in the facility now. He's here. There's nobody here. He's here doing his rehab. He's you don't wonder, Goo. You just know he's doing every single thing he can to come back. If I felt like we had a player that was kind of needed to be reminded, be here at 10 o'clock and you got to come back, Steph is so uniquely disciplined and motivated without anybody telling him. That's one of the things that you get to know about him when you're with him. There's a reason for his success. It's not just God-given hand-eye coordination. He can make a shot from wherever. His determination and the discipline he has, that's a part of what makes him elite. So with Curry, it's not like I know that whenever he's back or when he gets back or right now, he's doing every single thing possible. More discipline than anybody you can understand. His level of discipline to return is his own. It doesn't matter what I say or the trainer or his friend or Steve. He wants it. He wants to be back. And when you have that kind of self-motivation, that's all you need. So I know when he comes back, it'll be the very soonest it's possible. He will have done every single thing in every single minute to get back. And that's what gives me peace about it. So I worry because we need him.
Right.
But I don't worry that I should be looking over his shoulder because he's going to do it anyway.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game. Bob, let me ask you this. If and it's not so much about the question I'm going to ask, but you guys have had an unbelievable run, and there have been past All-Star breaks where, 2017, I could say, hey, Bob, what are you doing for the All-Star break? And you might be like, oh, I'm going to Cancun, or I'm going to Australia, going wherever you want. Because you're 29 and 29, and if I said, hey, Bob, what are you doing for the All-Star break? Are you any more self-conscious about answering that because the team's not doing as well?
No, I mean, there's nothing I could. Whether I go to the moon or sit around the office, there's nothing here. There's nothing happening. I mean, I would tell you getting away is a good thing for anybody, including myself, because this isn't, I think you guys know professional sports. It's not a really mentally balanced life. You probably overdo it. And getting out of it for a minute is actually a good thing, a healthy thing. So there's been years, Matt, where we have been great at the deadline. And you always want to get away, good, bad, in the middle. So I don't feel like if there was something that needed to be done that I could do around here, but I was talking to Steve yesterday, the thing that everybody needs to do is get away from each other. Everybody's around each other so much, and the space is actually good. That's why you come back and you look at the schedule and it's a stretch run, but I don't think it's a good thing for me or anybody to do anything, but maybe I'll worry more, I suppose. Maybe I won't feel as good as I would if we were 20 games over 500, but there's stress with that too, because for 6 years, or I don't know how many years, the only acceptable outcome was a championship. I guess that's still the case, but I could give you all kinds of reasons why sometimes my stress isn't correlated to our record. I know that may be hard for you. Sure. It doesn't mean I don't care. I probably care too much is my problem. That's probably my problem. So I don't ever worry about people caring more than me. I mean, that's crazy. I don't think any fans are waking up at 3 a.m. worrying about what we're doing. Maybe they are. They shouldn't, by the way.
Well, Guru is.
Guru might. Are you doing that? Don't do that, Guru.
Let me tell you what I'm doing, Bob. The daughter had a volleyball tournament in Reno about a month ago. The girls go to sleep. I sneak out, play some poker. And Bob, when you're at the table, you got to show your hand, and you feel like you hope you got a good hand. And then you look at everybody else, and you're like, oh. And I think of Kyrie going to Dallas and Durant going to Phoenix. Walk us through when you hear that, and you brought Peyton back, but are you like, oh, brother?
No, it's the part of what makes it good. I mean, it's compete. It's a challenge. I love the competition. We'll find out. I mean, we'll see if we can beat those teams in a series. They'll see if they can beat us. You look at your top group of guys, and you look at opponent's top group of guys, and Matt, you guys know, usually in the playoffs, the team that has the best player usually wins. Sounds simple, but it's not, and it's not that simple. But if you look at the history of playoffs, usually the team that wins has an MVP type player or a top 5 player on it. It's just usually how it breaks down. So when you go through the playoffs, how does your top 5 guy compare to theirs? Matt can look back, Simon can look back at Bird, Magic, who played better. And the Lakers had Kareem and Magic, and you could say that's 2 top 5 players at that time. Was McHale and Bird a top 5? You probably could say they were top 5, if not 2 top 10. But then they've got Parrish and all these other guys. It really comes down to those guys. The depth matters. Depth absolutely matters. But I would say depth matters more in the regular season, and the regular season does matter because you got to get there and you got to try to avoid the play-in. But the playoffs, it's your top 3, 4 guys, and how good are they? If they outplay the other team's top 3, 4 guys, usually you win the series. Now, there may be a game where you get a guy come off the bench and win it for you. That can happen, and those guys are valuable. And in the past, have we had a guy like that? I mean, I'd have to think. You guys would have to think, like, did Livingston's an example. Like, that guy would win at the playoff game. Iguodala.
Well, Andre, yeah.
Iguodala, right? I mean, those guys are top, but Iguodala might have been our top 4 player for our team. So,
yeah. All right, man. Well, listen, enjoy the break, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
All right, guys. All right. Who's going to win the bet? What is the bet anyway?
I got you going back to back, and Steiny's got the field, and we got a dinner and some drinks.
Steiny, have you ever bet on us? It's curious. Like, even
you can see his face right now, Bob.
Let me think for a sec.
No,
you know what?
Tell him no.
Give me 2 weeks to answer that. I'll get back to
buddy.
you. All right, Bob. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the call.